I want to talk about Snow White with the red hair, an anime that I've recently fallen in love with. So, my name is Dr. Ruth Zeman. I'm a positive psychologist, and I have recently fallen in love with anime. Now, not all anime is the same. It's just like all TV in that there are genres and subgenres, and some of them are great and some of them aren't. Well, this one is Snow White with the red hair, and it's probably for kids like ages 12. But here's the thing, when I want to decompress at night, I know that there are things that I cannot unsee and I cannot unhear, and I do not want nightmares. I want good sleep. So I want to watch things that don't demand anything of me. I want to watch things that put me in a relaxed state, that love me. Where do we find that? A lot of times we can find that within kids' media. Or just adventures or documentaries, something quiet, something that's not going to rile me up. So I'm not going to watch the news. I'm not going to watch serial killer documentaries. I'm not going to watch anything that has intense emotions right before bed. Okay, so 3 things that surprised me about Snow White with the red hair. It is the fairy tale we all know and love, and it's absolutely not. It starts with a young woman who has beautiful cherry hair. They call it apple red. She equates it to a red apple frequently. It is a Japanese anime that's been translated in English, and there are a few places where naughty words were added when naughty words were not said. And I think that's because it was probably most likely AI translated, or somebody who did translate it has a sense of humor and they were not pleased with their pay scale. No matter, I watched it anyway. So I watched the first or 2 episodes and I thought, well, this is cute, but kind of dumb, and it's really shallow, and it's not. Because I also recognized in the first 2-3 episodes that the story was complete. The story was rich and deep, and it actually wasn't shallow, and it wasn't just for character development like I thought. So I went and rewatched it. And when I rewatched it, I realized what I'd missed. A lot of times we get so caught up in being shocked over and over and over again. We think nothing's happened if we're not shocked. We think that quiet, calm, gentle stories aren't enough because we've gotten used to bam, bam, bam. We want our commercials to be fast and sexy, and we want things to come at us, and when it doesn't, when it calms your nervous system, when it seems to be this gentle flow, you miss so much. And so in essence, watching this has also helped me retrain calm, retrain peace. So here are some things I missed in the first 3 episodes. The first 3 episodes, we meet our characters. We meet the major players within this world. We get beautiful world development. We get a richness and serenity. And then it was in the second watching, and actually I kind of picked up on it midway through the series at like episode 6 or 7. But there's a gentle question that is being asked of the audience, and this is the second thing that surprised me. So when I was picking out my dissertation, I went with Disney Films because it's got this global release and adults watch it as much as children do, and we find that the average audience member is actually 24. So it is something that everybody sees and everybody has contact with in some way. Well, pretty much everybody in the world has had contact with the story of Snow White. When we watch things like Bluey, for example, Bluey is a show that asks you nothing. Bluey is a show that says, hey mom, you're doing great. Hey dad, look at you, good job. Hey kid, way to go. It's a show that pours into you. It's a show that doesn't ask anything of you, but it gives generously. So I'm watching this show, Snow White with the red hair, and I start noticing that there's a gentle question being asked. Now, it's not verbalized. The character is actually saying, this is the life I want. This is the path I've chosen. And what it's asking us is, are you intentionally creating your own life? And that's pretty much the question throughout the whole series. And the answer comes back that we are, in fact, thoughtfully thinking about what are my next steps? How do I live generously? How do I stay in character? How do I stay in alignment? And this is so beautiful. It lines up with PERMA. PERMA is my expertise. It is the science of well-being, and it is PERMA. Positive emotions engaged in your activities, relationships, meaning, and accomplishments. And I talk about it on this channel frequently. Now, meaning in life is something that when you align your whole life with the meaning, which the meaning of my life is to love myself and love others. And I am 50 years old now, and I'm still learning what that looks like. I'm still learning what it means to love myself. And recently it meant quitting my job. So, wow, I talked about that on Substack. But it means honoring the dignity of who you are in order to honor the dignity in others. And we see this in this Snow White. We see this in these very young characters who are about 18, 19 years old. We see a precious love story unfolding where a sacred divine nature is honored. And on the surface, it just looks like they're young and simple, and it looks like it's age appropriate, but you start watching it from the perspective of an adult and from this perspective of a social scientist, and you start seeing even more things. You start seeing they are verbalizing our internal monologues of, this love is overwhelming and I don't know how to speak about it, but I want to honor you and I want to honor myself, and I want to make sure that I'm not giving my identity away to you because I've fallen in love with you. And that is so rich and deep, and it's both innocent and impressive to see. And I'm wondering too if it was intentional or it was just the heart of our authors and cartoonists and everybody who put it together, because that's something fascinating as well. Because within that, something I'm going to talk about more in other videos is it also acknowledges the power dynamic of the couple. So a power dynamic in fairy tales is Cinderella has to be the impoverished daughter so that the prince is on the same social status as her. He is allowed to be in her presence. She is allowed to be in his presence. They are able to socially meet. They have the same social power. He's able to help her because of that. It's not appropriate for a man to raise up a commoner. So then we see this playing over and over again, that the girl kisses a frog, but he's actually a prince. So the power dynamic has to meet. Now, we can put this in English, or we can put it in quantum physics season, but let's do it this way. In order for your love story to sing, to have music, your frequencies need to match. So we look at stories like Beauty and the Beast and like, wait a minute, she's a commoner, he's a prince. Where's their power dynamic? Well, here we have character of Belle. She has incredible character, and she sacrifices for her family and her community. And here we have a lack of character, and that's why he became Beast. And it is in their meeting that they rebalance in character. And she actually comes with a great deal of social power. It's just not a title. And so that's fascinating. And then in Snow White with the red hair, we learned that that power dynamic isn't as impossible as we think. So we have this commoner who is Snow White, which is not the original story. That's true. She's just a mountain-born foundling in this story, and we might find out more in season 2. This is just season 1. But what happens is another prince grants her the title of Friend of the Crown, which now allows her to be on level with the prince. And it solves a problem that we knew we had. But now, towards the end of the season, we start seeing the power balance make it possible for them to come together. And one of the lessons we learn here is things that seem impossible actually are accomplished every single day. So over and over again, we have the story of a common young girl falling in love with the prince falling in love with the common young girl, and they can't be together because of their power imbalance. And then what do you know? It is fixed, and they are able to live happily ever after. And we see that in Snow White with the red hair, and we see that in real life. So I recently quit my job, like days. I'm looking again, I've been looking for a while, and I realized that part of the power imbalance in my own life, because we can balance within ourselves, is that I am a social scientist, and I am cutting edge, and I'm not a rule breaker. but I'm a creator who needs to thrive and create and look towards the edge of science to build. And it was breaking my heart to do things that don't allow me to do that. But also within that, I have to teach people who I am. So I get to look at these animes one more time and I hear that question that was asked, are you intentionally creating your life? Are you intentionally moving forward? And I realized I need that question as a 50-year-old adult. And I got it from, again, a fairy tale meant for 12 and 15-year-olds. So I highly recommend this show. I'm going to talk about it some more. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Take care.